What's up, guys? We'll be live on Twitch grinding out some Warzone games tonight, but this time with drops enabled, as Call of Duty has just released their newest Season 4 drops, including the Sensory Overload Spray, the Love the Bomb emblem, and the one I'm sure you'll all want, the Bloodstream Growl 556 variant. Exclusive loot that you can only get from watching Twitch streamers, so if you want to grab these, we'll be live on Twitch tonight, and I'd love to chat with y'all, so links in the description below if you're interested, but anyways, let's get back to the regular scheduled content. For kill chasers and players who love action, Warzone introduced what I think was perhaps one of the best modes in the game as of yesterday. I personally loved 200 player quads, but this one may just end up taking that a bit more to the extreme with that adrenaline boost for aggressive players that honestly I love, and it might be up there now exceeding 200 players, so 2 back-to-back good playlists in a row. But today I want to run down with you how you can be the big brain player running these lobbies, mowing down enemies and pulling absurd amount of kills each game, and fingers crossed you don't end up dying to someone camping in a corner, because start to finish you can have something great in this game mode. So that said, let me know your thoughts down below. What's your kill record within Warzone and Battle Royale? And as well, if you are new to the channel, do be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare and Warzone on a daily basis. But anyways, let's get into it. Yesterday we ended up seeing that Infinity Ward tweeted about a playlist update, saying a playlist update for Warzone is going out now across all platforms. This update removes the BR200 playlists, adds BR quads back to the sub menu, and brings BR Stimulus trios into the mix. So BR Stimulus is something that we've actually seen in the past, and I think it was most recently we ended up seeing it in the solo format if my memory serves correctly, but the whole premise of the mode isn't all that different from standard BR, but just with a few exceptions. Number 1, you start out with 4,500 cash as opposed to 0. 2, there are no gulags. 3, if you have 4,500 on you at the time of death, you automatically redeploy until that 5th wave pre-gas timer starts. So from there, you'll need to rely on your buy stations and your teammates having enough cash to bring you back. But the vast majority of the time, about 20 minutes of that, you have to budget your cash and play the risk reward of buying utility versus having a backup in case you end up getting ambushed or losing a gunfight that maybe you almost just had, but they had stopping power, they hit one extra headshot, or hell, they were just camping in a corner. And 4, finally, cash drops are now a little bit more increased as opposed to standard BR, so that for sure is something that is definitely nice. While you have 4,500 starting, you also have a little bit more to make that utility game go a little faster and a little further. But like we said, this was last seen in solos, and while it's awesome there, personally I don't think the action can be as high as in a different realm. Solos though, while it's nice, is naturally a much campier mode from my experience. You also don't have that information from teammates scouting out where enemies may be. I mean, there's 3 sets of eyes, that's always better than 1. Same thing goes for communication of that information gathered. So when it comes to this mode, which is incredibly fun and high-paced as is, you drop it into trios, well, you bet I'm gonna have a field day with this. And I'll be totally honest with you, I've heard that in recent times with the Juggernaut LTM of Juggernaut Royale, people were saying there's no skill-based matchmaking, and honestly, having played a little bit with it and ran into bots like no other there, I kind of believe that. Now, I don't know if that's the same case here with this, because I did run into some clueless players, and I'm talking clueless. But then at the same time, I also got in the same lobbies with some really high skilled players. One that immediately comes to my mind, because I've run into him plenty of times, is Metaphor, who's a top 10 player in the world for kills and score, with over 37,000 kills and roughly 650 wins. So that I really don't know if there is skill-based matchmaking or not, but long story short, the mode is still gosh dang fun. I will say that. But how do you big brain it? How do you be the smartest player in the lobby? What you couldn't do in solos when Stimulus was around was utilize those cash drops to the max potential. You had $4,500 to start, sure, but in solos, that doesn't really amount to much. The most you can end up getting away with if you were to buy something right off the rip was the UAV or self-res, which is nice, but the game changes when you have a squad of 3, all starting with 4,500, because you can pull together that cash, and with that, that's a total of 13,500 in cash in game, right off the bat. That's a loadout drop and 2 stacks of armor to disperse to your squad, and you can get all of that within the first 30 seconds of the game. Now, when outside of the glitch going around right now that you can drop your weapons right before the start, when in Warzone would you ever get a fully loaded weapon loadout and armor that fast? Even if you land super, which to my knowledge has the most dense loot spawns and therefore most cash drops and everything along with that from weapons and also then armor and such, even if you land there uncontested, you still wouldn't be able to pull that off naturally, a loadout that fast. So what you do is land on a buy station as a squad, drop your cash immediately, get those items, and then go to town. You're gonna have a much better chance wiping squads right off the rip when you have your loadout, and they may have like an M91 common variant off the ground, or the stock Bison. That stuff is no match for a Growl at range, a Kilo at range, or even close quarters, a loaded MP7 or MP5. So if you end up doing this, you can absolutely be the biggest brain and be the best players immediately with that and get off to a really nice start. Now, really, there's two ways to approach this sort of strategy, because you can go in super hot right off the rip, or you can go somewhere close to super hot and go in there from there. An example of landing super hot would be landing, say, Superstore in that buy station just outside in the front parking lot, or maybe that one that's right in the middle of hangars, right out in the open. Those don't really work too well for me in my own personal experience, because, I mean, you have so many people landing at those zones, they go for guns, you're just sitting there waiting for your loadout, and so oftentimes that leads to a little more death. But what my squad will end up doing a lot of times is maybe, say, going to that center tarmac buy of the airstrip and work our way into hangars then, or we'll land police station by hangars in that karst building, and then maybe split up and hit apps near airport, Superstore, and then hangars. And this variation in particular, you land a little safer, you get that stuff, and you just go from there. So you work your way in without the immediate congestion, but you still get a ton of kills out of it. No matter what way you spin it, you're still setting yourself up for a very hot start. But one thing though to keep in mind is that you are willingly sacrificing that $4,500 threshold that will automatically bring you back into the game. So again, that comes down to that strategy of high risk, high reward. Do you want a lot of those kills really early on, or do you want to play it a little bit more safe, in which maybe if you do get picked off right at the beginning, you can come back in, maybe get your stuff, maybe regroup and land somewhere else and go from there. So when you consider this, you do have to account for that variable that sometimes you are going to take an early exit in that game. You're going to have to requeue immediately in some of those games. You're not going to win every single one of those gunfights 100% of the time, but it will give you the best opportunity to do so, to set yourself up for a very good match. But one thing though also to keep an eye out for is that there are those players who won't do the same thing, and they will have that $4,500 in cash, so they will drop in again. And that goes from across the board, whether you're very early game or very late game towards whenever that cutoff starts, and you can no longer automatically drop in. I know that on our way to a win last night, we challenged these guys at one of the top of the skyscrapers in downtown. We ended up knocking one or two of them, but ultimately we ended up losing the gunfight because we were running sort of into an ambush. These guys were looking at the only stairwell coming to this rooftop access, so we gave it a shot, but it didn't really work out. However, here's the thing. These guys didn't pay any attention. They didn't think, oh, these guys may come back for their loot. So while they didn't watch the skies, that made it an even playing field for us, even though we only had pistols. And again, spoiler alert, we ended up going on to win that gunfight and that game, all because those players weren't checking the sky or listening for that enemy dropping into the AO, watch the skies voiceover. So if there is a multiverse, if they would have just chosen to look at that and take us out with all their weaponry while we had nothing, we wouldn't have won that game, and maybe they would have won it, or maybe they would have taken down another team that would have gone on to win it. But point being, watch your skies. And if you can do that as a kill hunter, you may actually be able to pull off some really cool stuff here with this. But overall, honestly, I think this is probably the most adrenaline pumping game mode that we've seen if you are somebody that likes to play aggressive. If you end up liking to go for these high kill games, this is the game mode. Just because of how many people are coming back, you're gonna have more players naturally than just the 1 out of the 2 that enter the gulag. So you'll have more kill opportunity. You end up getting your loadouts really early on. You set yourself up for a nice pace, and you just keep that going, and you've got yourself a game of a lifetime. Now, the one thing though that I do hope is that this is around a little longer than maybe just as of this upcoming Tuesday. We see some of these game modes introduced and they only last for a weekend, like Juggernaut Royale really wasn't around all that much. BR200 Quads was around for about 10 days, and that's okay. I think that's cool. But whenever it comes to things like this, I hope that we get the longer of the two lengths that we normally see for LTMs, whether that be 10 days or 2 weeks. I'm just hoping to see it extend a little further, because this one is honestly a blast. Plus, you do still, of course, have your things like your solos, duos, and quads, which I think is good for those that necessarily don't like the LTM playstyle of at least this one in particular, because there's enough on offer that you don't lose out on too much of your overall experience. But that said, I'm a huge fan of this. I hope it stays around a little bit longer than that of just the weekend warfare style playlist. We'll have to wait and see. Tuesday will be the ultimate determinant of that, but for right now, I'm just gonna go back to grinding out this BR stimulus trio. So that said, that is where we're gonna wrap it up. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. Firstly, what do you think of the game mode? Secondly, do you like the tips we gave here? Do you think that this is something that can absolutely help your game and the pace of it? And if you do try it out, let me know how you do with it down there in the comment section down below. Or if you want to tweet me, that's also awesome as well. But that's where we're gonna wrap it up. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down in the comment section down below, but hopefully enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare, updates, news, information, tips, tricks, all that good stuff we got you covered here on the channel. So if any of that interests you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. And also make sure you guys can make it out to the Twitch streams if at all possible, so you can end up getting some of the drops enabled, like that new Grau 556 variants. But if you'd like to follow a little further, Twitter and Instagram are the best places to do so. Practically live on both those. If you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. But with that said, now, thank you guys all so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.